Right.
Sorry for your noise in the background. My little one's tapping on the window.
So I'm not 100% sure if this has gone live yet.
It says live on Facebook.
Let me go to Facebook, go to our page, and we're going to share it. Yep, I see it. Okay, so. Wait for some more people to join us. Hello, everybody. We're going to get ready to start a Facebook Live. We're going to talk about back to the basics. Before we begin, we're going to set things up and make sure everybody can see it. Again, we're going to join us. Post. All right. So we got a little bit of people on. We can go ahead and start. I would like to tell everybody before we begin, I'll be looking to see what your comments are, anything you have to say. And I also want to put out that before we do this, we're not talking about politics. So anybody who wants to talk about politics, we can keep that out. That's not what this is about. This is about the basics of human trafficking, to understand how it works and what to look out for. If you want, we're going to go ahead and start. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. This is Monica Taylor. I'm here to help kind of facilitate what it is, getting back to the basics. Chris is going to be explaining to us what that means, what is human trafficking, what does it look like, and how we can help. He's with the Human Trafficking Response Team, very knowledgeable, and just wanted to use him as an instrument to educate us about this epidemic going on right now. So, Chris, can you explain to us what is human trafficking?
Sorry.
That's fine.
Anyways, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Chris. I'm the owner, founder, director of the Human Trafficking Response Team. We've done a lot of Facebook Lives with some other groups or organizations, and we will have a lot more to come. We do have a YouTube channel. It is on our website at www.htresponseteam.org, along with a bunch of other educational materials. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start.
So, Chris, can you explain to us what is human trafficking? What does that mean?
Okay, so when people hear human trafficking, they have a conception about it, or a misinterpretation about what it really is. A lot of people, when they hear it, they're like, you hear it all the time, save our children. You hear people saying save our women, but it's a lot deeper than that. So human trafficking is the exploitation of any human being, coercion into something they don't want to be in, whether it be sex, labor, organ harvesting, drug muling, recruiting. There's a whole bunch of different things that goes under human trafficking. A lot of people, when they see a trafficker, they're automatically like, oh, that's a bad person, but they don't understand that sometimes even a recruiter for a human trafficker is most likely a victim themselves. And when you start to understand what human trafficking really is, you can identify who's who, and kind of build something from there and figure out what to do. Because when you go up to somebody and say, hey, you're recruiting people, you're a bad person. Well, it's very possible that they were coerced themselves. The actual trafficker could be holding their family, their kids. They're afraid for their life. So they're doing these things out of fear. Or they were just born into it and they think that's how life is, which is very common. So human trafficking happens to babies, male and female, teens, kids, male and female, adults, male and female, and elderly, male and female. It doesn't matter your race, your gender. It doesn't matter about your sexual preference. What matters is if they can use you and they can get you, they're going to do it. And there's a bunch of different ways to fall into it. There's a plethora of ways, and they're always coming up with new ways to get you as well. And we want to make sure you know how to identify a possible threat. And maybe in the future, we also want to implement ways to prevent it from happening by devising techniques for people to know what's safe and what's not. And I can explain that a little bit as we go through this Facebook Live. There's too many things that happen in sex trafficking, or excuse me, see, I just messed up. Human trafficking. Again, you have sex trafficking, labor trafficking. You have organ harvesting that legit people steal your organs, they sell it on the black market. Rich people that can afford it, they don't want to wait in a line for that organ, will buy it with all the money they have, just to get ahead in life. It happens. And then drug muling, same thing, organ harvesting. They'll take an organ out, replace it with a sack of drugs, make you cross the border. No one knows the wiser. And they keep doing that till you either die or just can't do it anymore, and then they just toss you aside like you're garbage. There's all types of ways to be involved in, including recruiting. If you've been in it for a while and you get to a point to where you're used to that lifestyle, or you think it's the only way to live, that trafficker can convince you to get other people to come in. And it is actually very common. It could either be by fear or promising to offer you things you don't think you can get without them. So that's pretty much what it is. And people have to understand what the difference is between human trafficking and human smuggling. Human smuggling is a totally different thing. Is it involved in human trafficking? Yes, it is. But it's a completely separate charge. So when you're smuggling a human being, you're literally trying to bring them across borders. Doesn't necessarily make you the trafficker, but it's very likely that you're working with that trafficker if you're smuggling them. You see it quite commonly across the borders of Mexico into the United States, or from Europe to the United States, or United States over to Europe, Middle East. It happens. But the act of smuggling is sneaking someone across borders.
Can you give us an example of why someone would be smuggled across the borders?
Okay, let's use the Mexico example. So if you're a parent, you have a family, and you're living in Mexico, and you want a better life for you and your family, but you can't get it. You feel like people are always beating you while you're down. You feel like you can't win. So what happens is the family is going to try and find a way to get that life, whatever it takes. So they find someone that can smuggle them across the border. That smuggler is most likely going to be a trafficker, a really bad person, or working directly for a trafficker. So it's a lot of money. They can't afford it. So they end up like, okay, well, I at least want what's best for my children. I don't want them to grow up and what I've had to, I want them to have better than what I have. So they pay what they can to get their children across the border. Now, this smuggler is promising them things like, oh yeah, I'll make sure they're good, I'll set them up, make sure they get a job, blah blah blah. They make all these empty promises, and here's what's mostly going to happen. When they get across the border with your children, they're either going to abandon your children and leave them for dead. They're going to use them for free labor to make money for themselves, and those kids are going to grow up thinking that's the way life is in America or anywhere else they were smuggled. So they're going to have a bad life doing free labor, abused, whether it be sexually, verbally, physically. I mean, there's all kinds of ways they can be used, and sometimes, well, not sometimes, actually, a majority of the time, what happens is these children grow up in this life, and then they become part of the problem. They're actually becoming the recruiters. They're becoming traffickers themselves because they think life, that's how it is. And these victims become predators. So what happens is Homeland Security is snatching these people up who are being smuggled across the borders. They, some of them are getting DNA tests done. They find out that the kids that are with the adults, those adults aren't their parents. So they're separated, torn apart. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're taking them away from their parents. That's not always the case, because those adults are most likely the smuggler and the human trafficker or the human trafficker. And what they're going to do is they're either going to leave that child for dead or use that child for their benefit once they get across. So that child's going to have a bad life in America without coming over here, through the due process. Now there is other talk about how they're placed in cages, which is wrong. They need better facilities. Which they need funding for that. They can't just pull money out thin air. So the government needs to do something to move money over to that to help build a facility where they can get maybe housing for these children instead of putting them in a cage. But that's how they're storing them. They can't let them walk around and do whatever, because what happens, they get away. You have a kid who's either going to end up growing up homeless, growing up in a life of crime, falling back into human trafficking, and you want to avoid that. But it's sad. It's a hard decision to make, and it happens a little too much. Even happening once is too much. So these people are set up for failure as soon as they get across the border.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the statistics of human trafficking? I know it's a little skewed because, like we talked about, it's not always reported, but the numbers that we do have, what does that look like?
Okay, so let me go ahead and get my notepad. So I don't memorize these statistics and these numbers, and the reason I don't do that is these numbers are crap. These numbers are just based off what's reported. There are so many more cases out there that go unreported. People don't notice, people don't understand. So these numbers are not even close to being accurate. So just off the top of my head, well, not top of my head, but on the tablet here, sex trafficking is 8,000 just reported for 2019. Okay. Sex trafficking, 8,248 reports. Trafficking not specified, 1,511. Labor trafficking, 1,236. Sex and labor, 505. Agriculture, labor, is going to be 108. Traveling sales crews, 107. Restaurants, food services, 81 reported. Illicit activities, 55. Illicit massage and spa businesses, that gets back up there to 1,247. Pornography is 733, and we all know there's a lot more pornography out there being reported. residence-based commercial sex. It's actually a big one. Real estate, 592 reported. Online ad venue unknown is 459. That would fall under stuff like what we have going on Facebook, where we're actively trying to remove those pedophilia pages down, which I appreciate the public helping us out, reporting these pages so we can remove all those sites off Facebook. Sadly, Facebook is not cooperating with all of them, but we'll figure out a way to handle that and just keep pushing. The only thing you do is keep fighting. And then it breaks it down into gender, and so female is 6,684, male 1,304, gender minorities 99, adults 6,684, minors 2,582, foreign nationals 1,417, U.S. citizens 1,098, internet reports are 1,675, referral 1,312, training conference 618, other 388. This just goes on and on and on. And those numbers are great if you want to scare somebody. And it is scary. And that's just for 2019. Imagine, all the stuff in the past. It adds up. And you also have to take into consideration that this is not even close to everything that's been reported. And this is just coming from one agency. This isn't all the agencies. This is just the information they have. So what you have is you have a bunch of different agencies out there, organizations who are gathering numbers and statistics, and they're putting it together. And while they're accurate for their organization or their agency, because these agencies are not communicating or reporting to each other, which needs to be fixed. And all the stuff that still goes unreported, like it all goes to training and understanding what human trafficking is, how to identify predators, how to identify victims or someone that needs help. If you don't know how to do that, how are you going to report something that you don't know what's right in front of your face? Like if I tell you to go report, let's be stupid with it. If I tell you to go report every ball you see, if you don't know what a ball looks like, how are you going to report that to me?
Right.
You can't. Go ahead.
I think it's important just to reiterate what you said earlier, that human trafficking is not gender specific, it's not age specific, it's not race specific, and it can happen to anybody, and it does happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone. So I think that's really important too. With the statistics that we do have from this agency, it's just it does just point out the fact that there are so many different ways of trafficking, and there are so many different criteria that are under attack.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot going on that people don't understand. And like I said before, you hear it. Thank you for protecting our children. Thank you for protecting our women. And I do appreciate the support. I appreciate the thank yous, but you have to understand it's men, women, children, all ages, all sexes, even both at the same time. It doesn't matter. Even someone like me, I could fall into human trafficking. If I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time and I'm not paying attention, I could get snatched up. I could easily be used for labor.
So how do you identify possible cases of human trafficking or, a trafficker?
Okay. I'm naturally a suspicious person, and I have, and I'm not saying this is going to work for everybody, but if it sounds too good to be true, if it seems too good to be true, in my opinion, I'm going to be more suspicious of it. So I'm going to dig into it more. So let me give you an example. Let's use the music industry. Music industry is a big one. This is how you can identify a predator. So let's say you live in California and you want to make it big in the music industry. But you need to be in another state to make that happen. Let's say it's Atlanta.
Mhm.
So predators generally watch you online, social media. A lot of people use social media as a diary. Put their hopes and dreams up there. Predators take advantage of it. So let's say we got someone here in Atlanta who does own an actual music studio, but they don't use it for music. So what they're going to do is they're going to watch you online. They're just like, okay, I see what you want. Um, I see what you're looking for. I want to provide this. I think you have a shot. Why don't you come over to our music studio? We'll record your music, get you started. And it sounds great. It sounds amazing, but you're like, oh, wait, I can't afford to get over there. Otherwise, I would come over. And, you may have children. And then the predator's like, no problem. I will pay for you and your children to come over here, and we'll pay for your lodging, everything. We'll record your music. We'll just take care of everything. So at that point, I'd be like, oh, yeah, no, I'm going to look into this first. So what happens is, the gullible person will fall into their trap, get on the flight, bring them and their kids over to this area in Atlanta to a music studio, and once they get in the studio, seems normal business. Hey, let me get your identification, passport, stuff like that. I want to make a copy of everything just in case we have to travel. So we can go ahead and get your visas, all kinds of bull crap. And once they get all that, they might even do something like, hey, we got a little area, a playroom for kids. If you want to bring your kids in there, they got someone else waiting who's going to take the kids once they're in that room. And by the way, when they take your identification, every identification you have, to go make a copy of it, you're not getting it back. Then what they do is they come into that room, they might rough you up, take your phone, any way you have to contact anybody, including smartwatches, and they'll drug you up, they'll scare you, they'll say, hey, we have your kids. You can't tell anybody. If we see you trying to get a hold of anybody, we're going to kill your family, your kids. We're going to harm them, and then they'll even go as far as drugging you up. So you submit to everything they say. That way, you rely on those drugs in order to do what they say. Like, hey, if you give me drugs, I'll do whatever you ask. That's basically that relationship they're building up with you. And before you know it, you're stuck in human trafficking. You never see your kids again. Your kids are brought up as sex workers, labor workers, all kinds of things. That's just one way. So when you're offered things, you need to pay attention to what things, you actually need to think about it. Like, okay, this person's offering me an opportunity. Okay, well, what does this opportunity entail? What do they have to benefit from it? Why are they just offering this to me? And does it happen? Can it happen where someone's offered an opportunity and it's legit? Yes, but there's safe ways to go about it. You got to check into it, do research. Do they have any reviews of their business? Can you talk to other people that maybe have worked with them, that experience their industry, or have become successful from it? Um, uh, Most likely you're not going to be able to. And if you are, it's probably someone that works for them. But there's a bunch of different things you can do. Bring someone with you trust. Never travel by yourself. I mean, these people can fool you. These people are people you think you can trust, like your doctors. They're your lawyers. They're your neighbors, and sometimes they're your parents, your uncles, your grandparents. I mean, it's limitless on who it could be, and that's the bad part. It's always someone you think you can trust, someone you may have known your whole life, and then once the opportunity comes for them to jump on something, they take advantage of it, and you're like, oh, well, I didn't know you had something like this in you. So what happens is, if you don't know, or if you don't take a step back to look at what's going on and say, hey, I probably need to look into this more. So if they're offering you a lot of things, like let's say they do offer to buy you tickets to come over to this music studio, and you're like, well, I don't know, that sounds really too good to be true. And then what they'll do is they'll probably start offering more, throwing more things. Their goal is to get you there, and they're going to make it sound as good as they can in order to bring you over. So they're going to say a lot of things. They'll keep adding things on. They'll sound suspicious. They may contradict themselves. They may uh, offer you things that really are too good to be true when they're not that big. If you can get on their social media and you can look at, everything they're doing, like if they're saying, hey, I can offer you this, you can be a big star, this and that, but you're looking at their freaking Facebook and they're driving a damn Prius or their freaking Pinto, for crying out. I mean, like it's probably fake. You got to look at their lifestyle. Look at what they're wearing. There's clues, because a lot of people our show, you got a lot of people who dress really nice, have crappy cars. It just means they spend all their money on clothes and don't mind driving crap things. They spend a lot of money on a house and they can't afford anything else. So they're blowing their money on one thing just to put on a show, but their real life is not as glamorous as they're making it seem to be. And you're their key to get what they want. They're going to make money off you. So you definitely want to be able to identify, and there's so many different ways to do it, so many different personalities in the human trafficking industry that I mean, I could sit here and give you classes for days on what to look out for. There's just you have to be more of a suspicious person and be like, hey, okay, well, you're offering me this, but why? What do you get out of it? Do I have to pay you back once you pay for my ticket over there? Should I bring anybody with me? When you're traveling, you always want to let someone know where you are at all times. That way they get the last known location before you walk in there. You can even say, hey, you walk in there with your phone recording or something already off the bat in your hand where they can't really see it. And you just send that video off to someone real quick and they say, okay, well, she was with these people last. I mean, there's different techniques. And I see a lot of people, another way to protect yourself is maybe carrying mace, pepper spray, a baton, a taser, or a gun. Well, I see a lot of people buying these things, but I guarantee you when it came down to it, they wouldn't know how to use it. So when you have someone who's carrying this and they don't know how to use it, there's no point on having it. So if you buy pepper spray, if you buy a taser, if you buy a gun, if you buy a baton, you should be training with it. Whether it be learning how to pull it out quickly, learning how to extend your baton quickly, learning how to use your taser effectively. There's a bunch of different things, techniques you need to learn and understand because there's no point on having something in your possession if you don't know how to use it efficiently, because I guarantee you that trafficker is going to have a little bit of knowledge to overpower you, and that they're probably going to stop you from pulling out whatever you're going to pull out before you get your hands on it. So that's why you need to train. What's up?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, what is it that we should do if we ever were to identify a case or suspicious? What avenues do we take?
Okay, first of all, you always need to make sure if you identify it, you can't do anything about it if you were a victim as well. If you get caught up into it, you're then stuck in it as well. So you want to make sure you get to a safe location first. That's very important. But while you're finding that safe location, you need to analyze your situation. Be like, okay, what are the details? What is this person wearing? You want to gather it quickly. What's this person wearing? Give a description. Who they have? Were they male or female? Did it look like they had a weapon? Is there a vehicle? Can I get the plates off it? You know, is there a camera in the area? You just glance around, but you want to get to a safe area. Once you get to a safe area, you want to make sure you have, like, everybody has 911 implanted into their brain. All you got to do is dial 911. Now, there's other numbers as well that involve human trafficking. There's a human trafficking hotline from Homeland Security. They can investigate it. You know, most likely when you call 911, Homeland Security is going to end up getting involved. Feds are going to end up getting involved. If it's a local case, it may be local PD, Sheriff's Department. But you need to know who to report it to. Like, if you have like an organization like the Human Trafficking Response Team, yes, definitely, we want you to report it to us. But at the end of the day, we need law enforcement with us as well. You know, we can investigate things, we can protect you, we can gather the evidence, we can educate you all day, every day, but it's not our job to detain people. We can't do that legally unless they're in the act of committing a felony. And if they are, and we are able to detain them, we have to sit them down right where they're at. We can't move them. So law enforcement is going to have to be involved anyway. So your first go-to, don't ever let an organization like ours tell you, hey, call us first. No, don't call them first. Call 911 first. Call your Homeland Security trafficking hotline. I mean, if you're not in danger, let's say you're a victim and you found a way out, there are organizations you can call, say, hey, I want out of this. I need someone to come pick me up. So you have Out of Darkness, they'll do that. You have Safe Place. Only problem is some of these organizations, you have to be a certain gender. You have to be within a certain age for them to do anything for you. You can call us. We don't care what age you are. We'll help you out if we can. But it's one of those things you have to know, hey, I'm in a safe place to get out of here. If you're not in a safe place, we're most likely going to contact law enforcement, go out there with them, stay the hell out their way, and say, hey, this is the person, this is the place, go do your thing. They go do what they need to do, get you out of there. And then from there, an investigation is launched, and you know, everybody's detained who needs to be detained. But you need to make sure, you know, 911's definitely, it's quick, easy. If they're not responsive, definitely want to call the human trafficking hotline. And give me a sec, I think I have that written down on here. We definitely do have that on our page. So Homeland Security, the trafficking hotline is 1-888-373-7888. Again, it's 1-888-373-7888. And you have this in your phone. You can do a speed dial, anything. Now, you also want to know what you're reporting. You also want to know the details of it. You want to be sure it's a case, because you, like, let's say if you see a white van driving through your neighborhood, but you've never seen a white van in your neighborhood before, unless they're doing something suspicious, it's not something you should probably call in, honestly. I mean, just because it's a white van doesn't make them a human trafficker that's trying to abduct people. Now, is it possible? Yes, it is. But not all white vans are bad. And a lot of people have that they're constantly calling 911 when they see a white van. It's like, okay, guys, as it's getting kind of out of hand. You have to learn how to identify the suspicious behavior. Is the person sitting there watching the same thing? Are they off in a distance? Do they have any devices to help them see further? I mean, if you call, like, let's say if it's a private investigator doing surveillance. If it's a private investigators call 911 or the non-emergency PD number or sheriff's department, and they'll let them know, hey, this is my license number, This is where I'll be. This is what I'm doing. This is my year, make, and model of my vehicle, and these are my plates. So if you, as a concerned individual in your neighborhood, call 911 and say, hey, there's something suspicious going on, you give them the details, and they're like, oh, okay, well, that's good. It's nothing to worry about. We're tracking that. But if it's not a PI and you do report it, they're like, okay, we'll send someone to check it out. So, you know, suspicious activity, talking to people, random people that are walking by, you know, they're going to be really standoffish, kind of maybe look like they're hiding. They'll park in really odd places, like back of parking lots where, you know, away from everybody else. And they could also be walking amongst you. I mean, I've seen cases where they're walking through like stores like Kroger or Publix, and these people are ballsy. They'll literally walk up to you as a parent and say, hey, I'll pay you $2 million for your child right now. They do it. And by the time 911 responds, if anybody does call 911, you're gone.
So I know it's scary to think about that it's a possibility that something like this could happen to your own self. But it is a reality, and we need to know, you know, how to protect ourselves and how to prevent that from happening the best that we can. So what are some of your recommendations just to stay safe and to be smart while we're out?
Hold on one sec. I'm sorry, I'm trying to see something. All right, say that again.
I said, I know it's scary for us to think about, you know, the possibility of being caught up in trafficking. But what are some of the things that we can do to protect ourselves and to protect our families so that we don't become a part of that?
Okay, first, education is always important. You want to, okay, so if you go to our website, www.htresponseteam.org, go to the education tab, there's a bunch of videos that kind of tell you, and these are directly from Homeland Security. They are. All of them are from Homeland Security, except for the ones we do. There's a couple random ones from YouTube about a predator or an ex-predator that used to, you know, groom kids. So you want to educate everybody in your family. Everybody, especially kids. Like, for example, I just saw a case on Facebook where a girl, she said, when I was 14 years old, I was still pulling them at 22 because I got the juice. Now, that's a victim of multiple pedophiles. And I actually posted that under her comment. I was like, you are a victim of multiple pedophiles. You should probably talk to someone about that. You need to teach your children. Don't just have a sex talk with them. You need to teach your children what is right and what is wrong. You need to let them know, hey, if someone who's of this age, when you're this age, approaches you and starts talking to you like XYZ, you need to make sure they understand that that's not good. You need to, just like you instilled stranger danger into their head, you need to let them know, hey, that is not safe. You need to educate your children, and parents aren't even having the sex talk. It's blatantly obvious. You need to make sure your children understand. That way, when they grow up, they know, hey, there's no reason for this adult to be talking to me like this. I'm only 14, I'm only 16. There's no reason for me to be talking to this adult because my parents have already taught me it's wrong. And then when they get older, there's no excuse for them to be talking to younger individuals themselves. When you educate your family about this, you raise them up, and you got to teach them what is right and what is wrong, because without that education, they're just going to do it, plain and simple. It's pretty disgusting, and a lot of these young teens think it's okay. They grow up literally thinking it's okay to talk to a 22-year-old or a 30-year-old when they're 16 years old. That's That's not okay, even a little bit. Um, and then you got them saying like, oh, well, okay, well, um, maybe if they feel like they're going to get caught or something, they'll find another way to make it look like they were innocent. But that's the number one thing first is education. Next, you want to have a safety plan implemented in your household, your family. Even if you're by yourself, you need to constantly rehearse what would you do in the situation. Someone's trying to break in. What am I going to do? Where do I go? What room do I lock myself in? What weapon do I grab? How do I use this weapon? You need to make sure you're trained efficiently in whatever you're using, whether it be pepper spray, tasers. Now, as far as pepper spray and tasers, I do recommend pepper spray unless you get a taser that actually shoots the what do you call them, the prongs. If you get a taser that shoots the prongs, that's cool, because you don't want to close that distance on your predator unless you know what you're doing in a fight. You want to keep that distance as much as possible, even if you know what you're doing in a fight. Everybody that knows that's trained in fighting, unless you're in jujitsu, you want to keep that distance, because if they get the opportunity to take you down to the ground, uh, one wrong move, it's over. So I mean, you want to have a weapon that you can use that has that distance between you and them, whether it be a long baton, that pepper spray, the tasers that shoot the prongs. And again, you need to make sure you're accurate with it. You need to make sure you know how to use it, pull it out quickly. You need to store it in a spot that's easy and accessible to get, but safe for your children not to grab it. And there is a point in time where you may have, once your children are at a certain age, train your children how to use pepper spray, train them how to use a taser, train them how to use a baton, and train them how to use a firearm. I know a lot of people out there aren't crazy about firearms. They think they're bad, but if you're going to keep one in your house, I highly recommend you teach your child safety about these firearms at a really young age. And then once they start to get older, they can start handling it. You can train them how to use it safely. And then when it comes time, let's say if they're home by themselves and they're 16 years old, they know what to do in a situation. Now, you also need to educate your children on, what to stay away from. There's no reason for an adult to stop and ask a kid questions, whether it be for directions or, anything about school. Um, there's no reason for an adult to do that. If you're an adult and you got a question, ask another adult. And then we talked about this on one of our last videos. Parents are really proud of their children in school. They brag a lot, whether it be on social media. Hey, my kid's in football. Hey, my kid's in soccer. My kid got honor student. They put these bumper stickers on the back of their car. They had these yard signs. Congratulations, you graduated. Or advertising. I mean, that's great and all. It's great to be proud of your children. And my chief of operations said it right on the nose. It's not safe. It's actually, it's stupid. Lack of a better term, it's stupid to do, because what that's doing is allowing predators to see what your kids are doing, what school they go to. It's letting them find out your schedules. It's letting them find out when their kids are more accessible. And that, even bus stops, you parents, you want to get a rotation going. Get a parent to stand at the bus stop with the kids. I mean, there are predators out there who are gutsy enough to come up to that bus stop, sit there and watch your children, ask them questions, try and entice them to come with them. I mean, we did a scenario, or we talked about a scenario where, let's say, a predator's watching social media and your pet ran away. Well, they're going to take that and use it to their advantage and be like, okay, well, I'm going to say I found their pet and be like, hey, I talked to your parents. We found your pet. Why don't you come with me? We'll pick up your pet and then I'll bring you straight back home. Kids probably going to fall for it if they're not taught on how to handle that situation. So what's going to happen is your kid goes missing because you don't have that adult supervision and you didn't talk to them about safety, what to avoid, what's okay, what's not okay. You need to teach them about strangers. And you need to teach them basic things. Like, let's say if a predator's in the vehicle and they're approaching your kid, well, I mean, let's say a predator is talking to your child from their vehicle. That kid needs to run in the opposite direction that vehicle travels. So if the front end is this way, they need to go this way. If the front end is this way, they need to run that way. They need to run in the opposite way to inconvenience that predator so they can get away. And then quickly find a safe place to hide. You need to communicate with your neighbors and say, hey, if my kid's ever in trouble, can they use your house as a place to knock on the door and be like, hey, can I stay here until my parents come get me because there's someone out there trying to get me? You set that up, maybe a neighborhood watch. There's so many things you can do to protect yourselves. And traveling by yourself is, I don't care how tough you think you are, traveling by yourself is the best way for it to happen. Especially if you like to drink, you like to, you know, if you dabble in drugs, if you end up putting yourself constantly in a way where you're not in your right mind, they're going to take advantage of that. Concerts, games, it doesn't matter wherever you drink, smoke, whatever, they're going to find a way to get you. Um, you need to make sure you always have control over yourself. You can't, like, if you're drunk, all that stuff you train yourself to do is probably going to go out the window. I'm not saying you can't drink. That's on you. But if you overdo it, then you're setting yourself up for failure. Hold on one sec. Make sure we're still connected. I think something happened. Yeah, I think she got disconnected. We're gonna wait a minute for her to get back on. But yeah, there's a lot of things for you to do that will help protect yourself and your family. You need to protect everybody. Um,
Sorry about that.
oh, you're good. You're good.
I'm back.
All right. Um, anyways, did you miss any of that? You good?
I think I just missed. I left off where you were talking about teaching your kids how to protect themselves. If you're going to use any type of weapon, then they need to know how to use the weapon as well.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not gonna reiterate too much, but yeah, you need to make sure they're trained with that weapon. You need to make sure they rehearse what to do in certain situations, like if someone's after them, where do they go? Where do they run? Where do they hide? What do they grab for protection? You need to make sure your children are as educated in this as you are. You need to make sure they understand. Tell them the dark truth. Hey, this is what happens if people like this snatch you up. This is what you end up doing. You can end up falling into this category. You can end up being beaten to an inch of your life and end up looking like this. Show them scary, real life cases. It's something. It's meant to scare them. You need to scare them. Because if they're not afraid of it, they're gonna be like, "Oh, well, this is not gonna happen to me." You know how cocky kids can be.
Yeah.
And that also that goes back to we did our first Facebook Live, talked about how kids running away from home can lead into human trafficking, and we talked about a lot of ways to prevent it from happening, and how to adjust things in the household, how to communicate with your kids, in order to make it feel like you're approachable, because you want your kids to be able to approach you for anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Hey, mom, dad, I wrecked the car. I know it was wrong, but I need your help. I don't know what to do next. Or, hey, mom and dad, my boyfriend or my girlfriend wants to have sex. What do they need to be able to come to you and talk to you about that. You don't want to scare them to where uh, if they come and talk to you about something, they think you're going to punish them for it. You want to have an open dialogue with people. You want to set ground rules, obviously, but you want to open that dialogue and be like, hey, this is why I don't want you to do it. And explain to them, hey, this is what could happen, and this is what it could put everybody through. This is what it could put you through. This is why I'm asking you not to do it. And when they understand the why, they're most likely going to cooperate and be like, okay. And it prevents a hostile environment in the household, and it prevents them from running away. So that's, there's so much to it. There's, like I said, there's a plethora of different ways to fall into human trafficking, and days and days and days of training probably wouldn't even cover it all. I mean, it's endless possibilities, whether from being randomly snatched up, coerced, whether drugged. I mean, there's too many different ways. Someone could groom you or act like they're your best friend for a majority of your life, waiting for that opportunity to make the move they want to make, and then it's over. I mean, it's really hard to trust people these days. There's a lot of bad people out there. Um, so knowing who to report to, knowing what to do in a situation, training on what to do with whatever you have to protect yourself, rehearsing where to go in your house, where to run to if you're not at home, how to hide properly, how to get away. I mean, a lot of people, when they're scared, they take off running and they just go. They run as far as they can, for as long as they can, just endlessly run. Well, all they really had to do was maybe run into the closest store, maybe run into the closest restaurant. They maybe hide you in the back or say, hey, I need help. They call 911. Knowing simple things like that can save your life in the long run, because if you just grab something and think, okay, this is what I'm going to do in this situation, it's most likely not going to happen like that. You need to prep for as much as you can.
So I just want to just kind of recap what we talked about with trafficking, human smuggling.
Mm-hmm.
We learned that it's not gender specific, it's not age specific. There is no specific person that can be trafficked.
Right.
You guys, you need to educate your kids about what trafficking looks like. You need to educate them on how to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You need to educate them on who to contact if they feel like there's something going on.
Right.
Also, follow your instincts, follow your intuition. If you feel suspicious, if you feel in your gut that something is not right, go with that. Don't be alone in a situation where you're not comfortable. Find out who, you need to contact. Chris said contact 911, of course, first. Do not try to do anything on your own, and contact Homeland Security if necessary. And yeah, just try to, educate and stay aware and not turn a blind eye and think that it could never happen to you, because it could, and we don't want that to happen. And just also, if you ever come across anyone that has been trafficked, be a listener for them, be a good support system for them, and if they need help, try to get them some help to get back into reality, because that's not the reality that they want to be in. So,
Yep.
Chris, I thank you so much for educating us today and just showing up, and for all the work that you do.
Yeah, no, absolutely, no worries. I mean, there's so many things to it. Like I barely even scratched the surface. I mean, like there's different things in industries are trying to implement, like doctors' offices. They're coming up with a way for a victim to speak up and say, hey, I need help, without actually saying it. And hospitals, doctors' offices are starting to wise up and come up with really, really good systems. And we discussed earlier how how we want to find out what we can do about the real estate industry as well, how we can, implement a system in that. There's so many different things, and there's people who are trying to change the security industry and make it something better, because it's actually, it's your first line of defense. So there's a group that I'm going to be doing a discussion with once they're ready, to talk about how implementing human trafficking awareness into the security industry will help prevent a lot of it. Uh, they're actually a really good group. They're doing great things. And private investigators too. We need to make sure we educate more private investigators on how to handle this. But we are doing some things ourselves. We're doing something called an awareness challenge. The awareness challenge is basically, we're going to take any business that has a website and a logo. If you have a website and you have a logo, we're going to take your logo, turn it into a link, and place it on our website under the partners tab. Now, the only requirement that you have to do, it's absolutely free. The only thing you have to do is take our logo and place it somewhere visible and accessible to the public on your website. That way, when they click on our logo, it takes them to the education tab, and it can teach them about human trafficking. And this helps get businesses involved, and it gives them free advertising. The more people that come to our website, they're saying, hey, these businesses are involved in this. Hey, this music studio supports the human trafficking response team or other human trafficking organizations that combat human trafficking. I'm going to go with this music studio instead of some just random one on the internet that I come across. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So it allows people to network. It creates a safe environment for people, a comfort zone, so to speak. And we're also doing something called Operation Second Chance. Operation Second Chance is where we take survivors of human trafficking and we give them a chance to, now it's not a requirement, it is an option. We give them an opportunity to start their own business. They own their own business. Every bit of money they make, they get to keep. And what it does is the more money they make, it helps us bring in more financial or income for the human trafficking response team to supply, lodging for survivors, maybe food. It helps us launch cases, get investigators out in the field, maybe get better facilities. It also will create a support group amongst survivors, because, you got a bunch of business owners, and it teaches them, hey, I have a second chance at life. This is going to allow me to prove to everybody that human trafficking is not the only way to live. I have something outside of that, and it gives them that option. There's also something else I'm working on too, with another group. Actually, I can go ahead and tell you, they're hold on one sec. Okay. Give me 1 sec. I'm sorry. I have a problem with this.
I also want to tell everyone to go to your website, so that they can watch the videos about the different forms of trafficking and what that looks like. When I watched it, it was very insightful. So I want to encourage everyone to do that as well. Can you share your website out again?
Yeah, absolutely. It's www.ht Hotel Tango responseteam.org. Back to what I was saying about it's the beard struggle. That's another thing we're trying to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually sell beard care products, and the money that's raised from selling those products also goes to the human trafficking response team, as another source of income, because I want us to be self-sufficient. And we're also working on creating a nonprofit for the human trafficking response team. So if anybody wants to donate, I don't care if it's $5, I don't care if it's $1, I don't care if it's $1 million. If you want to donate, everything helps. It'll help us get that 501c3. And we'll be able to do a lot more. We'll be able to get government grants, create facilities. The end goal is to bring all organizations that combat human trafficking, educate people about human trafficking, anything that has to do with bringing down human trafficking. We need to bring everybody under one roof. That way we can work together as a team, because everybody has their own separate agenda. When we bring all those agendas together, we accomplish much more. And I do appreciate all the supporters out there who have been actively helping us take down these pedophilia pages. We definitely appreciate that. We've gotten quite a few down, and we're working on getting a lot more. So just keep helping us out. No matter what Facebook says, keep up the fight.
Thanks so much, Chris.
No worries. Y'all have a wonderful day. I'm going to stick around on here if y'all have any questions.
Okay.
So let's see. Hello, good evening. Hi. Psychological warfare. Okay. All right. So for any of you out there who are wanting to get more involved, I'm reading through these messages. Reach out to us, send us a direct message on the Human Trafficking Response Team, and we'll try and figure something out. In the meantime, definitely help us raise that money we need. I believe it was 600. What was it? 680, either 83 or $87 to start the nonprofit. And we have a group we're gonna get it started through. We're an LLC, and we'll always be an LLC, but we're gonna have a nonprofit under us. Once we have that nonprofit, we're gonna be able to go global. And we already have countries that we're working on, like Kenya, Ghana. We're working. I'm might as well not even say Dubai, because Dubai, that one's difficult. Their government's kind of, they require a lot of taxes. Anyways, there's other countries we want to go to in Europe. We want to be all over the world. We want to help out where we can. And we want to open up chapters in each of these locations. So as these chapters open up, the more people we're going to get involved in our organization. And hopefully one day in the near future, we get rid of human trafficking to the point to where it puts us out of business. That's our end goal. We want to be put out of business. We want human trafficking wiped off the face of the earth. So if you help us get there, the world will be a better place, and we can tackle the next challenge. Anyways, if you have any questions, reach out to us. We have a few people that can get back with you, answer any of your questions. Again, visit us at www.htresponseteam.org. Check out our site, all the tabs, what we have to offer. And I appreciate you joining us. Y'all have a wonderful day.